Okay, so in this video I will tell you how you can use Material UI with React app. So I'm using snowpack for building my app. Snowpack is just like Webpack, but it is unbundled tool. That means the builds are very faster. The code is not bundled in snowpack, but the structure is same. If you know Webpack and if you have created the React app with Webpack, then this folder structure is should be familiar with you. It contains the source directory and public directory. In public directory, we normally give the index.html, and where we define element, and on that element we mount our React components, and those React components will be coming from this particular file, index.js. So what happens is whatever is code is in the index.js is executed, and then normally what happens is on this particular element the components are rendered or mounted. And in the source directory we have got lots of other things like JavaScript files, JSX files, and there is a index.js as well, and components. All these things are there. You can also put the images as well. So index.jsx is the file that gets called, and you can see here instead of index.js I have put index.js, because what happens is Snowpack will convert this JSX into JS file, and it will put it into the dist directory when building the project. And that's why we have put here dist and index.js, because if you put here JSX, browser will not understand what that file is. Browser only understands JavaScript files, and that's why we have put here JS. So let us see what is there in the index.jsx. So index.jsx is very simple. What is happening here is we are using this React DOM and React models, and we are using this method, render method, on this React DOM object to render our component. So app is one component that will be rendered on this element as a child of this element. So remember that root is the element that is there defined in the index.html here. So that component will be attached to this particular element as a child. So you can see this particular component will be mounted on that particular element, that root element. So let us go to this app now. App is a, now this is the JSX expression where what happens is that this app thing will be imported here. You can see it is imported from the components, and then it will be rendered. So let us see what is in the app. So in here in the components there is app.tsx. So tsx is TypeScript, Java, just like JSX, how we have got JavaScript expressions. Similarly, we have got TypeScript expression, JavaScript expressions. So advantage of using TypeScript is that we get the static types, and we can reduce lots of errors because we have to define the types and writing the code. So let us see what is in the app.tsx. So here we are importing a lot of stuff like Material UI stuff. So Material UI is the library, we can call it, and it is created by the Google, based on Google Material Design. And Material UI core is one of the model, and from that model we are using lots of things that are there, like button, there is app bar, toolbar, a lot of things are there, like list is there, link, list item text. So a lot of things are you can import. These are basically the components that you can import. And in here we are importing from the React model. These things are coming from our custom components, where we have created these custom components. And here what we are doing is we are importing this browser router route switch from this React router DOM. This is useful if you want to create the links in your application. Now there are two different links. One link is like traditional link, where if you click all the page will be loaded, will be refreshed. But with this nav link, what happens is that the page doesn't refresh, only the another component will be rendered. That's it. And that is the benefit of this nav link. And there are a lot of other things that I have imported. As you can see, these are all custom components that I am rendering, importing here. And you can ignore that method here. So here is the main function. Actually, this is a function based component. Remember that in React there are two types of components, function based and class based. This is the function based component, and we are exporting that. So this is the default export. That means we can use there are two types of imports that you can do: named import and default import. So here If you want to use the state in this function, you can use this use the state particular, and return, this particular method is used to, this particular keyword is used to return the JSX expression, and here what we can return is the HTML thing or the another components. So browser router we have defined, and there you can see the bar is rendering, then there is a button is rendering, home, SPA, these things are rendering. Then there is a button which is actually, here we have defined the href, that means it will be used as the traditional link. If you use this link or nav link, that will be like a modern link, you can call it, or React based link, where the components are rendered, that is page will not be refreshed, at the client side only the component will be rendered. So how to use this nav link is we have to use this two thing. So basically we are mapping, like if the URL contains CG, then what happens is that this component will be rendered. So using this route thing, you can specify like if the URL contains this thing, what thing should be rendered. And this thing is actually used to render the link. And here it is telling like on that link where or what component should be rendered. And there are different buttons that are being rendered here. In here there is a switch thing, and what we can do here is depending upon the path, different things will be rendered. Like here we have seen that if the path is function com, then what component should be rendered. If it is class com, what component should be rendered, and so on and so forth. That's it. So that is the app component, and there are a lot of other components, bar.jsx, which we have imported into the app. So bar.jsx contains the top bar in the application. I'll tell you the application that I have created, and you can see this the top bar that I have created, that is happening because of this bar.jsx. And a lot of stuff that I've imported is from the material UI library. And if you want to like override the styles defined in the material UI, then you can use this make styles function, and then you can define your custom classes basically. So you can see all these things, these buttons, these buttons, these icons are actually coming from the material UI library.